The ancient Greeks had a flood that wiped out humanity. So did the Babylonians. So did the Hindus. So did the Aztecs. So did an isolated tribe in the Amazon that had never seen a map. Cultures separated by oceans, by thousands of years, by every possible barrier. All told the same story. A flood, a survivor, a fresh start. They couldn't have copied each other. So why did they all invent the same myth? And it's not just a flood. Every civilization that has ever existed on this planet has produced the same handful of characters. A trickster who breaks the rules. A hero who descends into the underworld. A god who dies and comes back to life. A supreme figure in the sky who watches and judges. These aren't vague resemblances. They're structural mirrors, and they appear in cultures that had no ships, no trade routes, no shared language, and no possible way of communicating with each other. Let's start with the trickster. In West Africa, he's Anansi the spider. In Scandinavia, he's Loki. In Japan, he's Susanoo. Among the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, he's Coyote. In Polynesia, he's Maui. Every single one of these figures does the same thing. He lies, he shapeshifts, he breaks the established order, he steals something sacred from the gods and gives it to humanity. And in every tradition, the other gods can't quite get rid of him. Because the world needs him. These cultures had no contact. Zero. And yet, they built the same character with the same personality, the same role, the same relationship to power. As if the trickster isn't a story someone made up, but something the human mind is compelled to produce. Then there's the dying god, Osiris in Egypt, Tammuz in Mesopotamia, Baldur in Norse mythology, Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, Adonis in Greece. In each case, a divine figure dies, usually violently, usually through betrayal, and then returns. The death brings winter or famine or darkness. The return brings life back. Scholars have counted more than 40 independent, dying and rising god myths from cultures across every inhabited continent. 40 civilizations watched the same story play out in their own imaginations and decided it was sacred. And then there's the one that made a professor named Joseph Campbell famous. In 1949, Campbell published a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. He had spent years reading the myths of every civilization he could find. Greek, Sumerian, Hindu, Aboriginal, Norse, Mayan. And he found the same plot in all of them. A hero leaves the ordinary world. He crosses into a place of supernatural danger. He faces a supreme trial. He gains something. And he returns transformed. Campbell called it the monomyth, the one story. It shows up in Gilgamesh, the oldest written narrative in human history. It shows up in the Odyssey, in the story of the Buddha, in the legends of King Arthur, in Star Wars. The same story, over and over, for at least 5,000 years, probably much longer. So what's going on? The first explanation people reach for is diffusion. Maybe one culture invented these stories, and they spread. The flood myth, for example. Maybe it started in Mesopotamia, with the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest recorded versions, and then migrated outwards with trade and conquest. But diffusion falls apart fast, because flood myths exist in places Mesopotamian traders never reached. In oral traditions of Aboriginal Australians, whose culture has been isolated for at least 50,000 years. In the traditions of Andean civilizations. In the myths of the Nardane peoples of northern Canada. These stories predate any possible contact. Diffusion cannot explain them. which leaves us with the uncomfortable alternative. The stories didn't spread, they were generated, independently, by the same machine, the human brain. In the 1930s, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung proposed something radical. He argued that beneath the personal unconscious, beneath your own memories and experiences, there exists a deeper layer he called the collective unconscious, a set of inherited psychological structures shared by every human being. Not memories, not learned information, structures. He called them archetypes. The trickster is an archetype. The dying god is an archetype. The hero's journey is an archetype. Jung argued these are not stories we choose to tell. They are patterns, hardwired into the architecture of the human mind. We produce them the same way we produce language. Not because someone taught us, but because the machinery was already there. Now Jung's ideas were controversial. They still are. But modern cognitive science has arrived at something strangely similar, from a completely different direction. In the early 2000s, cognitive scientists studying religion proposed a concept called the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device, HADD. Here's what it means. Your brain is wired to detect agents, intentional beings that cause things to happen. When a branch snaps in the dark, your brain doesn't think wind. It thinks someone is there. This isn't a flaw. For 300,000 years, assuming a predator was behind that sound kept you alive. The ones who assumed it was just the wind got eaten. But HAD doesn't shut off when there's no predator. It keeps running. It detects agency in storms, in disease, in the movement of the sunlight, in death itself. Your brain cannot look at a powerful event and not ask who did this. And when there's no visible agent, your brain invents one. A god of thunder, a god of plague, a god of death, a spirit in the river, a will behind the wind. This is why every civilization invented gods. Not because they were stupid, because their brains were doing exactly what brains are built to do. Detecting intention, finding agents, building explanations that have a who at the center, rather than a what. And it goes further. Cognitive anthropologist Pascal Boyer found that the gods humans invent all share specific properties. They are agents with minds, they have desires and emotions. They can be angered and appeased. They watch human behavior and care about it. These are not random features. These are the exact properties your social brain is designed to track in other humans. Your brain took its social software, the machinery for understanding people, and projected it onto the universe. You didn't just invent gods. You modeled them on yourselves. And the dying god? That's your brain processing the most disturbing pattern in nature. Things that are alive stop being alive. And then, in spring, they come back. The fields go brown and then go green. The cycle demands an explanation with a who. So your brain builds a character who dies and returns. Not a metaphor, a person, because your brain thinks in people, not in systems. The flood? Your ancestors lived near rivers. Rivers flood. Catastrophic floods wiped out entire settlements repeatedly across thousands of years. The ones who survived passed down the story. And your brain shaped it the same way every time. A world destroyed, a chosen survivor, a fresh beginning. Not because the events were identical, but because the brain that processed them was. Here's what this means. You're still running the same software, right now. Every movie you love follows the hero's journey. Every villain is a trickster. Every franchise resurrection every superhero who dies and comes back is the dying god wearing a cape. You think you're watching something new. You're not. You're watching a story your brain has been generating for 50,000 years. Maybe longer. The gods aren't out there. They never were. They're in the architecture, in the wiring, in the fact that 8 billion people on this planet all share the same cognitive machinery. And that machinery has only ever known one way to explain a universe it didn't build. Every civilization that has ever existed looked up at the same sky, felt the same fear, ran the same pattern recognition software, and arrived at the same answer. Not because they were told to, because they couldn't help it. The gods weren't invented. They were inevitable.